Hi folks, we hope you're all well. The Bullpen Bros have been taking a wee bit of time off from podcasting in the off-season, although we have been catching up regularly and recording the odd bits and pieces. We had a wee catch-up this week for Christmas. We had a couple of beers. We chatted about our Christmas jumpers. We looked at some baseball Christmas connections. And we talked about some sporting traditions from Christmas as well. Clearly not baseball, which is going through its bleak midwinter. So here's a little bit of entertainment, which we hope you'll enjoy. All the best and have a great Christmas. Thanks.
We gotta go to the bullpen. Welcome to the Highland Bullpen, the all-new podcast bringing America's pastime to Scotland's shores. It doesn't matter if you're a Hall of Famer heading for Cooperstown or you're fresh out of the minor leagues. This is the podcast for you.
I don't know if I've got a Christmas jumper. You're putting me to shame, Alan. Was it everyone in Christmas jumpers?
That's 50% of us.
No, I just wondered whether it had been an edict that had been sent out.
You know us Presbyterians, we just like a good bit of fun.
You know where that leads?
How's yourself? Yeah, what are you up to?
Just about there, I think, Alan. I think virtually all the shopping's been done on Amazon, and I've got one last thing to collect on Christmas Eve. Skelts, you all set?
Just about, yeah. Everything going okay. Still some bits and pieces to finish off. The guts of it's all done, but we tried to take a converse view to you about Amazon, and we tried to go everything sort of homemade or charity shop, craft type of gifts. So
I hope my gifts go from a charity shop.
No, that sounds really good, Skelts.
Have you? I mean, it's obviously too late for this year, but have you used notonthehighstreet.com?
No, I haven't.
That's like a bunch of UK-wide crafters, I suppose, or unusual gift shops. So independents, and I suppose they're trying to rival Amazon, or just to sort of say, can we get a lot of sort of small independent stuff? It's hard to avoid Amazon. I want something, you know they've got it.
I mean, when I've got the option, if I can find it elsewhere, I'll choose elsewhere. But it's even just getting stuff delivered in time, and I know you're right, it is a deal with the devil, though.
Dave, the gifts you left me, one a blue and white wrapping paper and one had a green and white wrapping paper, but you didn't put names on them. Festive jumper, reindeers, or reindeers.
Oh, excellent. I like that. Oh, I like Star Wars one as well.
Oh, very good, Davey.
Get in there.
That is good.
I like it.
So, I was wondering, has anyone got any baseball Christmas references or Christmas stories? I've been doing a wee bit of research. Any teams you think are particularly Christmassy?
Any famous players called Rudolph?
I can go through a few players for you if you want. And can I start with a Detroit Tiger from 1913? Unfortunately, his major league career didn't last too long. I think he only played 5 games, according to stats site. He was a very giving man, was Al Claus. Because he gave away so much as a pitcher, he just didn't really make a career. So poor Al, I don't know what happened. He'd a famous brother though, so he did a bit better. The White Sox 2005 World Series champions, not Holly Reith, but John Garland. Also a pitcher. He'd a decorated career, we believe. You can tell I'm reading off a script here now as well, can't you? As well as playing for the White Sox, he played for, and you have to get this one, guys, he played for the one baseball team that does feature in the Nativity story.
The Cardinals.
The Cardinals probably came a bit later as Christianity became organised, but there were people that guided the shepherds.
No, not Angels, no.
Oh, the famous Mariners.
The LA Angels. Well, maybe not the LA Angels. I don't think LA was a thing.
Just Googled Christmas and Major League Baseball. And it came up with a guy called Steve Christmas. This is a catcher. Born in 1957, very good year. Played left, threw right. Played for MLB debut 1983 for the Cincinnati Reds. This is just Wikipedia. MLB statistics. Batting average 162, 1 home run, and RBIs 7. He played for the White Sox as well.
He probably found a better career with the Christmas shop or something that he set up.
I don't know anyone called Christmas, but it is definitely a surname.
What's the story for people who are born on Christmas Day? Because effectively you're robbed of a birthday. My birthday is close to Christmas Day, and I used to get presents that were joint birthday and Christmas presents when I was young. And there is a circle of hell waiting for those folk.
Yeah.
But imagine getting it on the day itself. That's right.
You're in good company with Hall of Famer Ricky Henderson, who was born on Christmas Day as well. I think we might have touched on Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, he was the sort of base stealing specialist, wasn't he?
Yes, the man of steel. Yes.
Yeah, I liked it. Well, maybe because he got his birthday nicked from him then. Maybe that was why he's determined to steal some baseball.
That's exactly what's happened there.
The Grinch of the MLB.
Who would be the Grinch of the MLB in your eyes then?
I don't know much about the Grinch, actually. He's green, isn't he?
The Grinch does like to hit a home run.
There's not really is there any well-known umpires at the moment? Any kind of, particularly strict or tough umpires? Somebody like that would be a good choice for a groundling, I suppose.
I think if you go back to the sort of early 50s or something like 60s, when you had real old stages character managers who had, you don't seem to get as many bust-ups with umpires, do you? I mean, I think I saw something a few weeks ago. I was going to try and do a bit of a piece on these old guys who've been, call them ejections, don't they? Ejected out of the game. And there's a guy who holds a record, the manager with the most ejection, and some of the reasons he was getting ejected. So the commentators are brilliant as well when they go into it. He's really going to get his money's worth. Now he's being ejected. Then they really go for it, don't they? And there's a thing where they lift the base, like the first base. Have you seen them do that? They lift yeah, there was one guy and he was kicking dirt at the umpire. He was getting that angry, and this is apparently a thing as well because, they're always sort of cleaning the home plate, aren't they? So he was kicking dirt at the umpire. So, I think there's quite a lot of old stagers who are pretty miserable. Is the Grinch sort of miserable?
The Grinch should be a bit of a bah humbug, sort of Christmas type character, would they?
Yeah, you could imagine a few of the old managers fall into that category.
Well, I think Craig Gordon at the weekend there would try to throw the ball at the referee when he was raging as well, but at least a football's not too hard. You wouldn't fancy getting a baseball lobbed at you in anger. And when you think they've all got bats as well, they're literally all walking about with some serious weaponry.
I was thinking that because I have on my Christmas tree, I have got 2 baseball decorations. I've got a Charlie the River Dog Christmas decoration and San Francisco Giants one. A baseball ball is ideal size and shape for a Christmas bauble. But if you put a normal baseball ball on your Christmas tree, it would bring your tree down.
Yeah, they are quite heavy, aren't they?
You'll probably know this, guys, about which Scottish football team is mentioned in the Bible.
Well, I do have a bit of an objection to that question because they say it's the only football team in the Bible, but Hearts are mentioned.
Maybe, that's a fair point, but I wonder if the rule might be it has to be more than
one full name.
Because I suspect Heart of Midlothian probably wasn't.
No, I think the most common football team, if you go for the one word in the Bible, is an English team who have severe financial troubles.
Buddy?
Yeah, common word in the Bible. Baseball team names that are in the Bible. The Tigers aren't mentioned in the Bible, but Cubs are. Angels are.
Yeah.
I then went more for hymns. So, Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
Yeah.
This one's a bit of a stretch, but once in Royal David City or once in Kansas Royal City. Slight wee change on that one.
Here's one off the top of my head then. In which US state, which is home to at least one Major League Baseball team, is there a town called Bethlehem?
I did know there was a town called Bethlehem, but I can't think what state it's in.
A big sports state, big historic state.
Massachusetts, is it?
No, but it's the right general direction. You're not a million miles away. It's that kind of oldie worldy. Skelks might have famously mentioned a bell that's located in this state as well.
Okay.
Pennsylvania, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I think it's a big steel town. There might be more than that. I know there's a few Glasgows in America, and I've been to Livingston in America and a Glasgow about 10 miles away from each other.
First time I went to America, we did travel around a bit, and every other town name, it's like in New England, there's Manchester and Chester and loads of places. other European towns, Paris and Berlin, you come across. And I kind of then realised that Americans get a lot of stick, don't they, for saying Rome, Italy, as if we don't know where it is. But the reason I think they say that is because there'll be 2 or 3 Romes in America, different states, and that's why I think they always say the state and the country afterwards, just so that people don't think they're talking about that other Rome in, I don't know, Ohio or something.
But Rome reminds me of pre-baseball days. A trip to Disney World, and I was in the queue for something, and this young lad started talking to me and asked where I was from. So I told him Glasgow, and he said, "How'd you get here?" And I goes, "Oh, so like it's an 8-hour flight, and then a couple hours on the bus." When I told him I was from Glasgow, his response to me was that his mother had been to Rome.
Yeah,
and it was like, I suppose they then see. Do they see Europe in the same way as the US? So yeah, my mother's been to Europe. So I didn't actually meet her, which would have been a bit slightly on the cheeky side.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, maybe I'm mellowing my old age, but I'm a bit more kind of understanding of the Americans, the cliche, because they hardly get any time off in a year. Like you start a job, you might have 1 week's leave a year or 2 weeks after you've been working it for a few years. So the chances of you going to Europe or something like that are pretty slim, and they have got a big country themselves, lots of places. So I've mellowed a little bit in that front. I might have to.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. It's sort of geographical detail about a continent that's 5,000 miles away from them. You know what I mean? And yeah, America is a big place, and they probably know plenty about their own country and Canada.
I think that's
in terms of size. The sort of continent of Europe, and America in terms of actual sort of square mileage, you probably could fit quite a lot of Europe into, certainly North America.
I think somebody once said to me that when I told them it was from Scotland, so it was near Norway, and you sort of laughed at that initially, but if you look at the lakes and you go from Michigan over onto the other side of the lake in Illinois or whatever, you then think that's probably a reasonable distance away then as well, but you wouldn't, as Europeans, we wouldn't think, oh, they're that far apart. Yeah, they are. Why would you need a passport when you've got 50 different countries in your own country?
Exactly.
I think it's slightly imbalanced as well. It's because America's culture is so pervasive and everywhere. We do know a lot about America because you've got television and films and stuff like that. But obviously that doesn't work the other way around. We know a little bit maybe from British movies, but it's nowhere near the volume. Yeah. And they won't be watching many French art house movies, I'm sure, to get an idea of where Leon is or whatever.
I remember watching one of the first times I went to the States, I was at Marianne's, and she put on Shetland, the TV detective story. And I'd never heard of it or seen it before. I worked in Shetland regularly when I was younger. All these Americans watching it, and there's like multiple murders, and there's like been one murder on the island in 50 years, and the policeman is busy because he's trying to catch the young boy racers, but Americans must think, I really want to go to Shetland to see how grim it is, or I'm staying away from there because it's terrifying.
Shetland must be pretty close to Norway, Alan. No, or am I showing? I can't be telling anyone about geography to be fair.
No, I'm not sure. Faroe Islands, I think. When I flew from Aberdeen to Shetland, which I think was as far as flying from Aberdeen to London. Jumping back to the Christmas story, the shepherds were baseball players as well because they were out in the field tending their flock. But obviously they used the field for their sheep, maybe them playing ball. But
there must be a few shepherds, not an unusual surname, is it? You had the cricket umpire.
She was an astronaut with
An astronaut as well, yeah. There's a guy, 2019, for the Orioles. I found a few Orioles guys with good names. A Chandler Shepherd played 5 games in 2019. The other hymn, Silent Night, that was one that was played in all baseball grounds this year as well, I think, 2020, because there were no fans. But baseball brings joy to the world.
Being a summer game, though, you obviously don't have anything over Christmas, do they? Is there anything in the NFL? Do they have the equivalent of like a sort of Boxing Day game in England or the New Year's Day game in Scotland? Do they do anything like that?
I think the Thanksgiving Day games are bigger.
Ah, yeah.
The reason I say that, and it might be my bias, is the Lions play a home game on Thanksgiving every year. They only play 2 or 3 games on Thanksgiving Day every year. but one of them has to be a Lions home game because that's written into the NFL rules. It's just something that was presumably done in 1935 or whenever they set up that. But
yeah, it's become a sort of traditional.
The off season would be known as in the bleak midwinter.
Do we like sports having kind of festive set pieces, if you like, then? Obviously, Scottish football, you've traditionally got the Nair Day Celtic Rangers game, and cricket, and is it the Boxing Day test, is it?
Yeah, that Melbourne. Yeah, it starts on Boxing Day, and then a week later they will have the New Year's Day. They'll start in Sydney.
Amazing.
So I think they're currently playing a series against India, aren't they? In fact, I think I said this before. If it hadn't been for this pandemic, it would have been in Australia now. Folks in Melbourne, and actually last week planned, we were flying into Perth because we've got family there. We're going to spend some time there and then get the train to Adelaide for a couple of, overnights. So it's like a sort of Orient Express job. And then we're going to stay in Adelaide. And I noticed last week, when they bowled out India for Australia for 36, and they were playing at Adelaide, which is, they have modified the ground, but it was reputedly one of the best cricket grounds in the world, scenic.
The Oval? Is that the Adelaide Oval? Is that?
Yeah.
I love the name of the Perth ground as well.
Is that the Wacker? Would that be the Wacker?
The Wacker, yeah. I just think it's a great name.
Yeah, I think it does sound like an Aborigine name. This is just off the top of my head. Presume it's the West Australia Cricket Association. There's loads of towns in Australia like Wagga Wagga and what's the Gabba in Brisbane. My mum's family who emigrated to Australia, so we went in '94 and we were very lucky. It was a family visit, and we were very lucky because, or not as the case may be, because England were touring. My brother and I went on Boxing Day to see the Test match.
Wow.
At the MCG, and it was fantastic. And actually knew a mate of mine was going to be there, so we arranged to meet. It was before mobile phones and that sort of thing, so we said we'll meet in the bar at the so-and-so stand at lunch break. So we duly did that, and we said, oh, by the way, it's 100,000 seat stadium, isn't it, plus? And he said, where are you sitting? He says, oh, so-and-so. He was sat about 2 rows behind us. It was fantastic. England it was in the period when England were pretty poor and getting well beat by the Aussies. And my memory of that game is there was England were that crap. There was a run out, and I swear it was one of them mix-up run outs. And I swear at one time, I need to look this up, both the England batsmen were that mixed up, they were running to the same end. One of them was out.
That sounds like an amazing. To me, that's one of the great sporting occasions in the world. That day, Vince. To be honest, with you, Boxing Day.
Yeah,
Melbourne, the Ashes.
It's a superb event, and you walk along the Yarra River. All the sports stadiums are there. The tennis stadium, the MCG, which I think it was home to the Olympics in the 50s, or
I think that's right as well, yeah.
Back in the day when England toured, because England Cricket Club, it's not really just England, it's basically, the England and Wales Cricket Club in it, Scots and Irish people have all played for England, but when they toured, they used to tour as the MCC, Marylebone Cricket Club, and the first test match was effectively at the MCG, and England or Marylebone Cricket Club played Australia, which back in them days was effectively the Melbourne Cricket Club. So it was MCC versus MCC.
The MCG.
But it's a very modern. It looks quite modern. It's a huge stadium. Sydney Cricket Ground is really nice. I was really impressed with Sydney, and they've still got one of the really old stands. Unfortunately, they were renowned for having the hill, Sydney Hill, and it was just like a grass bank where all the ockers, as they call them, the Aussies would go there, and they're quite a tough place. And my dad and uncle used to tell us stories about sort of being an Englishman, when the test match is on.
And that would have been a good Australian team then as well, I imagine. Warners and stuff like that, or would have been that.
Warney was, I think early in the day, must have been the first day, just from memory, I think there were England must have won the toss and decided to bat. And I think it was a while before they got the first wicket. And of course, the new ball, it's usually the fast bowlers who come on. But they hadn't got a wicket, and some of the fans were starting to chant, Warney, Warney, get Warney on. He'll sort of out, which he duly did.
What about his ball, the ball of the century as well, Dave Ince? Is that one of the great cricket memories as well?
Yeah, I think back, genuinely. I remember the build-up to that. That was his first tour, Warney's tour, wasn't it? And they were talking about really sort of leg spinners had gone out of style, hadn't they? Really good ones. And, Warne being that successful, he kind of brought it back a wee bit. But everyone was talking about how brilliant he was, what an exceptional talent it was. Back in them days, it would have been the early 80s, I suppose. And they played a few warm-up matches against English county sides. And he played a few, but he never bowled the real leg spinner.
Yep.
He kept a few, but never bowled the googly. And that first ball against Nightcat actually was a great batsman, particularly spin, but there's no defence against that. Was absolutely fantastic. That's the beauty of sport, even of cricket especially. That is the biggest rivalry, the biggest game. Although I've got Aussie connections, you always want to beat Australia, but really the game of cricket is more important, so if somebody does well, you just say, well, I'm glad I saw that. You go to see Sobers play against England. You hope England win, but you really don't want Sobers to be out first ball. You want him to get a century and somehow you still win. It's the same in most sports, really, isn't it?
Well, Maradona died recently, obviously, as well, and I'm gutted I never saw Maradona play in the flesh.
Yeah, I did actually see him play against England, quite early in his career. That was a major thing at Wembley.
Alan, you weren't at Hampden by any chance, were you? Because that was where he kind of almost announced himself on international stage in 78, I think.
No, it wasn't. 78. Was it 78 he played? So I was in the Highlands until 83. Yeah. I think I'd been to Hampden twice before then for an England game and bizarrely a Portugal game. The England game would have been before that. It was 77, I think. I was thinking Christmas sports. I mean, used to play football on Christmas Day in Scotland 30, 40 years ago. Boxing Day is now traditional. The Old Firm game, the Glasgow Derby, Richard, sorry. You would have your Hogmanay drink and get a bus down to Glasgow, actually on New Year's Day, which you look back now and there's no way you would do that now. But I think they tend not to go for the first now, which is more of a policing thing. My other sports, golf and cycling, aren't really Christmas Day sports. Although they always say cyclists have to go out training on Christmas Day because psychologically you can't miss Christmas Day because people, that's seen as a sign of weakness. But the darts would be the best Christmas one I can think of. The PDC Championship, they don't play on Christmas Day itself. Do they just close down? They close down for a couple of days, maybe at Christmas.
2 days. That
is one of the great Christmas TV traditions, watching the PDC. Not quite the same this year without the crowds. Or the Grinch. Peter Wright was the Grinch this year.
He looks very good this year. I don't know if you guys seen his... Peter Wright's fairly well known these last few years for kind of exuberant, over the top on stage. Fair play. At his age, he's not a young man, but to put his hair through that every night, he dyes it some other colour and it's caked in some sort of product. His wife, I think, does his hair. I think it takes up to 2 hours every night just to do it. So they must actually like each other. But he came on the stage full top to toe as the Grinch on the opening night of the World Championships. And when you consider there's a whole lot of pressure at that point, you're the defending world champion. It's opening night. It's a quick fire, first of 3 sets at that time of the tournament. So you can be open to getting knocked out on the first night. But I think over the years, he's started to get a really good relationship with the fans because he's a bit daft. It doesn't take much seriously. Whichever town or whichever country he's in at that moment in time, he tends to soak up to them. And what Alan was talking about there, his hair dyed green, which isn't overly shocking for him, but his full eyebrows and beard, everything was green, top to bottom, and he's a good character to have. I think the PDC, the only 2 days they don't have a schedule on are Christmas Day and Boxing Day, but the final is I'm pretty sure historically it's played on New Year's Day. And that's always a good one to sit and watch. Again, it's not the same this year with the lack of fans. And my current hatred is, it's a very precise science these days, but when you have piped through crowd noises from someone sitting with a keyboard, a delay of even half a second between something good happening and just that noise not being organic, it really feels a bit like canned laughter in a bad comedy show. The PDC are using that just now with the kind of piped in reactions, and it's not the best.
Looks like a good night out of that, Skelts.
Yeah.
But it looks good.
It's really good. I won't give the name of the venue away, but every year we tend to, we know where the players stay. For the Premier League, historically it's played on a Thursday night. It's changed a little bit this year, but the players travel up on a Wednesday night and they have a good session. and it's not practice on a Wednesday night at this particular hotel. I know these guys, they are becoming a bit more mainstream. Guys like MVG, like Peter Wright. I think people would recognise them out in the street. Phil Taylor, Barney over the years. It's becoming a bit more of a mainstream celeb when it comes to sport. They're fantastic. On Thursday itself, there's a bunch of us and we sit in the hotel having drinks, and you can just grab a player, have a chat, as long as you're not arsey about it. They're more than happy to spend 5, 10, 20 minutes just having a chat, having a drink as well. There's no real nutritional regime for them at that point. And I think as long as you're respectful, and if they're clearly just enjoying mingling with fans, that they're more than happy to accommodate people that are coming along, putting their money in and going to have a good night. So it's definitely one we could look to do once things come back.
Is there a correlation between the most disciplined minglers amongst them, Skelts, and the guys that actually play darts well? Or are there guys that are good minglers but also manage to play darts well?
I think a couple of years ago, when Michael Van Gerwen was at his pomp, maybe 2016, 17, but he stopped and he was full of the chat, really just up for a blather. And again, it's just, you're not waiting in a queue, there's no pressure. It really was maybe like a big pub, but not a busy pub. So whenever somebody would walk past, you could just maybe put your hand up, and if they had time to stop, they would stop, and most of them did. One of the best ones was Michael Smith was on his way out, and we said, "Oh, Michael, have you got a minute?" And we'd offer to buy anyone a pint, and he went, "Oh, lads, I can't. I've really got to nip somewhere, really important." And we thought, "Oh, he's been a wee bit." He wasn't playing that night. We thought, I wonder if he's just putting us off. And about 15 minutes later, he came back through the door and he came straight over to the table. He went, "I'm really sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. How's your night? How's your day?" And I can't remember who it was, but someone asked him, "What were you going out for?" So apparently Gary Anderson had sent him out for a Mars bar, which apparently he loves before a match. The two of them are big buddies, and he just says, "I can't go out, I'll get mobbed, it's Glasgow." And he sent Michael out to the nearest shop just to get a Mars bar. But it's a nice touch when they come back and they know that you're not being intrusive or anything. Yeah. They're happy to stop and have a good chat. So the darts is a good night out, Richard, you're right. I think there's lots of different ways you can do it. Alan and I have both been over the years. The really good way to do it, you can get a table, like any of these sporting events we've been to. You can maybe get a table along the side where they walk out. Get 4, 6, 10 guys and just enjoy the night and get a wee chat with them as they come out. It's something to look into.
What time of year are they generally in Glasgow at?
The Premier League tends to run March through to August, but they do mix it up. In the last few years, they've took everything abroad. Again, darts is huge in Holland and Germany. Germany in particular hasn't really produced any really good players, but the Germans are wild for darts. And
I didn't know that, Dave. I didn't know that about Germany. I knew the Dutch played him, but that's interesting.
They've got a few good players out just now. Gabriel Clements and Hop is kind of always about there. The fans, they're absolutely wild for it, and I think the World Cup is held there every year, and they go nuts. It's a big festival. I'm trying to remember which part of Germany it's held in. It might be Hamburg, but I'm not too sure. But I mean, the darts, they go to Rotterdam every year.
That would make sense, sort of north of Germany, sort of, that not too far away from...
Yeah.
I'm not surprised the Germans aren't any good at it. Scouts, the Germans are never good at anything.
Anything with precision, yeah.
So there was one, I think I was flying to the States via Schiphol one year on a Friday, and Van Gerwen and Van Barneveld were on the flight. presumably been, I think it must have been the Premier League the night before. So it was like an early morning flight. They were on there good to go, reasonably fresh with their agents or managers or whatever. They're just normal guys waiting in lounge and what have you. Dave Skelton, I'm just going to ask, conscious, weight of your time as well, but your Christmas stocking, what colour will that be?
I've got a stocking. It's my stocking from birth, to be honest, Alan. It's one of my grands made it. It looks a bit tatty, a bit like myself. It's got a lot of meaning in it. I think it was my dad's mother made it for me. I was her second grandchild to come along. And again, it's maybe a generational thing, a whole lot of knitting, a lot of crafts. So we've all got stockings and things like that. So it is blue, to answer your question. It is blue with some nice festive red and white in there as well. You'll be very pleased to hear.
That's interesting how you added red. It gives it the Christmas colours, a wee bit of red, white and blue. Yeah, good job. I did actually wonder if you just have a white stocking and Dave Ince would have a red socks stocking.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But I can tell you what mine is. Mine is it's black with white furry trim, and it has the word Guinness on.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
I used to get all sorts of stuff from Guinness back in the day where I was sort of signed up for something years ago, and I used to get sent all sorts. And one Christmas, I'll have to send you a picture of it. So it's hung up now on a mantelpiece. The
Red Sox and the White Sox fans not quite got the stockings we expected, but they're hung up for Christmas and all good to go. We had hoped to find a closing picture by the name of Jesus for you, because only Jesus saves. But unfortunately, we couldn't find that in the record books. But we wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we look forward to catching up with you all in 2021.